When people ask me when I first realized my fiancé was cheating on me, they expect a dramatic answer. A lipstick stain. A mysterious text. A stranger's perfume. The truth? It was much smaller than that. It started with a smile. Not the smile he gave me. The smile he gave someone else when he thought I wasn't looking. At the time I convinced myself I was imagining things. I wanted to believe the man I'd spent 4 years with couldn't possibly be lying to me. I was wrong. My name is Olivia. I'm 29 years old, and until a few months ago, I thought I was about to marry the love of my life. His name was Ethan. We met at a charity fundraiser through mutual friends. He was funny, confident, the kind of man who could make an entire room laugh without even trying. Within 2 years, we'd bought a small townhouse together. A year later, he proposed. It felt like everything was finally falling into place. Or so I thought. Wedding planning consumed our lives. Guest lists, flowers, cake tastings, endless meetings with vendors. Every weekend disappeared into planning. It was stressful, but it was also exciting. One evening, while reviewing the guest list, Ethan casually mentioned a woman named Vanessa. She's an old friend from work. I'd really like her to come. I looked at the spreadsheet. I don't think I've ever met her. You haven't. She transferred to another office before we started dating. He answered so naturally that I didn't think twice. Sure. Invite her. Looking back, I wish I'd asked more questions. About a month later, we attended one of Ethan's company parties. That was the first time I met Vanessa. She was beautiful, confident, perfectly dressed. When Ethan introduced us, something immediately felt strange. She smiled at me. It's so nice to finally meet you. Finally. That word stuck with me. Finally. As though she'd heard a lot about me. Or, as though she'd been waiting for this moment. I shook off the feeling. I told myself I was overthinking. Throughout the evening I noticed little things. Nothing obvious. Nothing I could actually accuse anyone of. But enough to make me uncomfortable. Whenever Ethan told a joke, Vanessa laughed before anyone else. She seemed to know exactly what he was about to say. She finished his sentences. She remembered stories he'd never told me. At one point she looked at him and smiled. You still order the same drink. He laughed. Some habits never change. I frowned. How did she know that? They supposedly hadn't worked together in years. On the drive home I asked casually, So, you and Vanessa seem close. Ethan shrugged. We worked together for years. That's all. You've never mentioned her before. I guess it never came up. The answer wasn't convincing, but I wanted to trust him, so I let it go. Over the next few weeks, I noticed her name more often. She liked almost every photo he posted online. She commented on his updates within minutes. Sometimes I'd walk into the room and Ethan would quickly lock his phone. Whenever I asked who he was texting, he always had an answer. Work. My brother. The wedding planner. There was always an explanation. None of them sounded impossible. Just rehearsed. Then something happened that I couldn't ignore. One Saturday afternoon, I stopped by Ethan's office to surprise him with lunch. His assistant looked confused when I asked for him. Oh, I thought you two had lunch together. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? He left about an hour ago. With Vanessa. I forced a smile. I'm sure it's work. The assistant nodded. I guess so. But they looked pretty dressed up for a work meeting. I thanked her and walked back to my car. I sat behind the steering wheel for nearly 20 minutes. Trying to convince myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe there was. Maybe there wasn't. I didn't know. But for the first time, I stopped trusting my excuses more than my instincts. That evening, Ethan came home carrying flowers. My favorite kind. White lilies. He kissed my forehead. Long day. I smiled weakly. It was. He never mentioned leaving work. He never mentioned Vanessa. He simply acted as though nothing unusual had happened. And that scared me more than anything. Because if he could lie that easily, how many other lies had I already believed? 3 weeks later, the wedding invitations were mailed. Everything was paid for. Everything was ready. Then, while finalizing the seating chart, Ethan said one sentence that would change everything. Can you make sure Vanessa gets a seat near the front? I looked up from my laptop. Near the front. He smiled. She's important to me. That moment, I had no idea just how important she really was. I tried to ignore what Ethan had said. She's important to me. People have close friends, old coworkers, mentors. There were 100 innocent explanations. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. But every time I repeated those words in my head, something felt wrong. Why did she need to sit near the front? Those seats were reserved for family and our closest friends, not someone I'd met only once. A few days later, I was finalizing the reception seating chart. I noticed Ethan had quietly moved Vanessa's name. Originally, she'd been seated at table 14 with several coworkers. Now, he'd placed her at table 2, right beside his college friends, just 2 tables away from the head table where we would be sitting. I stared at the screen. Ethan. He looked up from the couch. Yeah. Did you move Vanessa? Oh. Yeah. I figured she'd know more people there. I frowned. She doesn't know your college friends. They'll get along. The answer came too quickly, almost like he'd already prepared it. That weekend, my maid of honor, Mia, came over to help assemble wedding favors. She'd been my best friend since high school. She knew me better than almost anyone. Halfway through the afternoon, she looked at me and asked, "What's wrong?" I smiled. "Nothing." She laughed. "You folded the same ribbon 3 times." I sighed. "I think I'm overthinking something." She leaned forward. "What is it?" I told her everything. Vanessa, the office lunch, the seating chart, the late-night texting. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she quietly asked, "Do you trust him?" I answered immediately, "Yes." Then I paused. "I think." She nodded slowly. "That's not the same answer." 2 days later, I got an unexpected message on Instagram. It was from a woman I didn't recognize. The message read, "I don't know if you know me, but I think you should ask Ethan about Vanessa." No greeting, no explanation, just that. I stared at the screen. My heart started racing. I replied almost instantly, "Who are you?" The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared. A minute later, the account was gone, deleted, or blocked. I never found out. That night I barely slept. By morning I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to accuse Ethan, not without proof. If I was wrong, I could destroy our relationship over nothing. But if I was right, I deserved to know before walking down the aisle. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. A week later, Ethan forgot his smartwatch on the bathroom counter before leaving for work. Normally, I would have just plugged it into the charger. Instead, it lit up. A notification appeared. "Vanessa." My stomach dropped. The message preview showed only one sentence. "Last night was worth the wait." I couldn't breathe. I picked up the watch with shaking hands. Another notification appeared. "I can't wait until it's finally over." Finally over? What did that mean? The wedding? Their relationship? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. Those weren't messages coworkers sent each other. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I took pictures of the notifications before they disappeared. Then I placed the watch exactly where he'd left it. That evening, Ethan acted perfectly normal. He kissed me, asked about my day, even suggested we order my favorite takeout. Watching him smile across the dinner table made me feel sick. How could someone lie so effortlessly? The next afternoon, Mia came over again. I showed her the photos. She stared at them for a long time. Then she quietly asked, "What are you going to do?" I looked at our wedding invitations stacked neatly on the dining table. Nearly 200 guests. The venue was paid. The caterer. The photographer. Everything. "I need proof," I whispered. "Real proof. Before I blow up both our lives." Mia nodded. "I'll help." 3 days later, that proof arrived. Not from Ethan. Not from Vanessa. But from someone I never expected. Ethan's own younger brother. And what he handed me made calling off the wedding seem like the least dramatic option. I never expected Ethan's brother to be the person who would reveal the truth. His name was Noah. He was 26 and had always been kind to me. Unlike Ethan, Noah was quiet. He didn't talk much, but whenever he did speak, people listened. The day after I showed Mia the messages, Noah called me. I almost didn't answer. Ethan's family and I were close. I didn't want to create a situation where everyone was forced to choose sides. But something in Noah's voice made me pick up. Olivia. Yeah. Are you alone? My heart immediately started beating faster. Why? There was a long pause. Because I need to tell you something about Ethan. I sat down. What happened? Noah took a deep breath. I don't know how to say this. Then just say it. Another pause. Then he said, Ethan has been seeing Vanessa for months. The room went silent. Even though part of me already suspected it, hearing the words out loud felt different. No. I whispered. Noah, are you sure? Yes. How? He hesitated. Because I saw them. Noah explained everything. A few months earlier, he had gone to a restaurant near Ethan's office. He wasn't looking for Ethan. He was meeting a friend. But while walking inside, he saw Ethan sitting across from Vanessa. First, he assumed it was just a work meeting. Until he noticed how they acted. The way they looked at each other. The way Ethan reached across the table. The way Vanessa held his hand. Noah said he left because he didn't know what to do. He told me he loved you. He was planning a wedding. I thought maybe I misunderstood. I closed my eyes. But you didn't. No. I felt a strange calm come over me. Not because I wasn't hurt. I was. But because suddenly every confusing moment had an explanation. The hidden phone. The secret lunches. The way Vanessa knew things about Ethan that I didn't. The way he protected her. It all made sense. I asked Noah the question I was afraid to ask. Does his family know? No. Why are you telling me now? His voice became quiet. Because I saw the wedding invitations. I saw your name beside his. And I realized. I was about to watch you marry someone who wasn't honest with you. I didn't know what to say. For the first time in days, I felt grateful someone cared enough to tell me the truth. After the call ended, I sat in my living room for hours. The wedding dress was hanging in the bedroom. The flowers were ordered. The venue was booked. Everyone was excited. Everyone except me. Because I was looking at a future that suddenly didn't exist. Mia arrived that evening. She didn't say, I told you so. She didn't ask how I missed the signs. She just hugged me. And somehow, that hurt more. The next morning I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Ethan with tears. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to give him the chance to rewrite the story. I wanted the truth. All of it. So I called Noah again. Do you know if they still talk? He answered immediately. Yes. How? Vanessa posts things sometimes. She thinks no one notices. I opened Vanessa's social media profile. First glance it looked normal. Photos. Friends. Work updates. Nothing suspicious. Then Noah told me where to look. Check her archived stories. My hands froze. Why? Because she saved some. I opened the section. And there it was. A picture from 2 weeks earlier. A coffee cup. A man's hand. A familiar watch. Ethan's watch. The caption said, soon. My stomach dropped. But that wasn't the worst part. I kept scrolling. Another saved story appeared. It was a photo of a wedding magazine. Open to a page showing wedding decorations. The caption, can't wait until I get everything I deserve. I stared at the screen. Everything I deserve? I didn't know what she meant. But I knew she was connected to my wedding. Then another message came from Noah. One sentence. Olivia. There's something else you need to know. I called him immediately. What? His voice was serious. Vanessa isn't just planning to attend your wedding. She thinks she's going to leave with Ethan. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do you mean? Noah replied quietly. Because Ethan told her the wedding is only a formality. And after the ceremony, he planned to choose her. For a moment I couldn't speak. My fiancé wasn't just cheating. He was planning to humiliate me in front of everyone I loved. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I had to do. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't confused. I wasn't wondering if I was imagining things. I wasn't making excuses for Ethan. I knew the truth. And somehow, that hurt less than the uncertainty. Because uncertainty keeps you trapped. The truth sets you free. Even when it destroys the future you thought you were building. I sat on my bedroom floor surrounded by wedding decorations. The invitations. The dress catalog. The seating chart. Everything represented a life I thought I was going to have. I picked up one of the invitations. Olivia and Ethan. 2 names. 1 future. Except, only one of us had been planning to actually honor it. I cried that night. Not because I wanted Ethan back, but because I was grieving the person I thought he was. The next morning Mia came over. She brought coffee and didn't ask questions. She just sat beside me. After a few minutes she said, "So, what are you going to do?" I looked at her. "I don't know. Part of me wants to cancel everything." She nodded. "And part of me?" I looked toward the wedding decorations. "Part of me wants everyone to know the truth." Mia understood immediately. "You don't want revenge." "No. I want accountability." That afternoon, I met with our wedding planner, Sarah. I didn't tell her everything. Not yet. I simply asked, "Is it possible to make changes to the ceremony schedule?" She looked concerned. "Are you okay?" I forced a smile. "I just need some adjustments." She studied my face. Then quietly said, "Whatever is happening, you don't have to handle it alone." I almost cried, because that was exactly what I had been doing, handling everything alone, while Ethan was living a completely different life. Over the next few days I made a plan. Not a plan to hurt anyone. A plan to protect myself. First I saved every piece of evidence. The messages. The photos. The screenshots. The conversations. Everything. Then I contacted the wedding vendors. I didn't cancel. Not yet. Instead, I asked them to keep everything exactly the same. The venue. The decorations. The microphone. Especially the microphone. Because I realized something. Ethan had spent months controlling the story. He told me one thing. He told Vanessa another. He told his family something else. But on our wedding day, everyone would finally hear the truth. 3 days before the wedding, Ethan noticed something was different. We were sitting on the couch when he suddenly asked, "Are you okay?" I looked at him. "Why? You seem distant." I almost laughed. Distant? The man who was planning to leave me after our wedding was asking why I seemed distant. "I'm just stressed." He reached for my hand. "I know wedding planning is overwhelming." I looked down at his hand holding mine. The same hand that probably held hers. "Yeah. Overwhelming." He smiled. "I can't wait for us to finally be married." The irony almost made me sick. The night before the wedding, Vanessa sent me a friend request. I stared at it. For a few seconds I wondered if she knew. Then I accepted. Within minutes she sent a message. "Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day." I stared at the words. I replied, "Yes, it will." Then she sent another message. "Some things are meant to happen, no matter who tries to stop them." My hands went cold. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. She believed she had already won. The morning of the wedding arrived. Everyone was excited. My mother cried when she saw me in my dress. My bridesmaids told me how beautiful I looked. The venue was perfect. Flowers everywhere. Music playing. Guests arriving. From the outside, it looked like the happiest day of my life. Nobody knew what I knew. Ethan walked around smiling, greeting guests, taking pictures, playing the role of the perfect groom. Then I saw her. Vanessa. She walked into the venue wearing a dress that was impossible to ignore. Not a guest dress. Not something subtle. Something designed to make people look. She smiled at Ethan, and Ethan smiled back. A smile I had never seen him give me. That moment, I knew I had made the right decision. Before the ceremony started, Ethan came over. "You look incredible." "Thank you." He kissed my forehead. "Are you ready?" I looked into his eyes. "More than you know." He smiled. He thought I meant I was ready to marry him. He had no idea. I meant I was ready for the truth to come out, because hidden behind the flower arrangements was a microphone, and by the end of the day, everyone would hear exactly what Ethan had been hiding. The ceremony began exactly as planned. At least, that's what everyone thought. The guests smiled. The music played. The photographer moved around capturing every moment. From the outside it looked like a perfect wedding. A beautiful bride. A handsome groom. A happy couple starting their life together. Only a few people knew the truth. Me, Mia, Noah, everyone else. I stood at the entrance of the ceremony hall, holding my bouquet. My hands were calm. That surprised me. A week earlier I thought I would fall apart. I thought seeing Ethan standing there would break me. Instead, I felt strangely peaceful, because I wasn't walking toward a marriage anymore. I was walking toward closure. When I reached the front, Ethan smiled at me. The same smile that had fooled me for years. He took my hand. You look beautiful. Thank you. The guests watched us with happy faces. My parents were crying. His parents were smiling. Everyone believed they were witnessing the beginning of a love story. They didn't know they were about to witness the end. The ceremony continued. The vows began. Ethan spoke first. He talked about trust. About forever. About how lucky he was to have found me. Every word felt like a performance. I stood there listening to promises from a man who had already broken them. Then it was my turn. The officiant looked at me. Olivia, do you have your vows prepared? I smiled. I do. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Ethan looked curious. He probably expected romantic words. Everyone did. I opened the paper. But instead of reading vows, I said something else. Before we continue, there's something everyone here deserves to know. The room became quiet. Ethan's smile disappeared slightly. Olivia. I looked toward the guests. Everyone here came today believing they were celebrating a marriage. They came believing two people were choosing each other honestly. I took a breath. But that's not the truth. A few guests exchanged confused looks. My mother looked worried. Ethan leaned closer and whispered, "What are you doing?" I ignored him. Over the past few months, Ethan has been telling me he was planning our future. He was telling someone else something completely different. The room went silent. Someone in the back whispered, "What?" Ethan grabbed my hand tighter. "Olivia, stop." I gently pulled away. "No. Today is the day everything stops being hidden." I looked toward the back of the room. Vanessa. Everyone turned, including her. Her confident expression changed instantly. She looked around nervously. I continued, "Would you like to tell everyone why Ethan has been messaging you for months?" The room exploded with whispers. Vanessa stood frozen. Ethan immediately stepped forward. "This is crazy. She's misunderstanding." I looked at him. "Am I?" Then I reached into my purse. I pulled out my phone. I have messages, photos, and conversations. The color drained from Ethan's face. Noah stood up from his seat. "Ethan." His voice was quiet. "But you told her it was over." Everyone looked at him. Ethan stared. "Noah, don't." But Noah continued. "You told me you loved Olivia. You told me Vanessa meant nothing. You lied to everyone." Ethan's parents looked shocked. His mother covered her mouth. "I don't understand." I looked at her. Neither did I. Until I found out. The room was completely silent when I pressed play. I had saved one specific audio message. One Ethan sent to Vanessa. His own voice filled the room. "I just need to get through the wedding. After that, everything will change." A wave of shock moved through the guests. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Did he really say that?" Ethan looked terrified. "Olivia." I looked at him. "You invited the woman you were cheating with to our wedding. You expected me to stand here and marry you. And you thought no one would ever know." Vanessa suddenly stood up. "This isn't what you think." I looked at her. "Then explain." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Because there was nothing to explain. Not anymore. Then the officiant quietly stepped back. The music stopped. The photographer lowered his camera. The perfect wedding scene was gone. Ethan looked around at everyone staring at him. For the first time, he wasn't controlling the story. He wasn't deciding what people believed. The truth was finally out. But then, something unexpected happened. Vanessa looked directly at Ethan and said one sentence that shocked everyone. "You promised me." She already knew. The entire room froze. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. All eyes turned toward Vanessa, especially Ethan. His face changed instantly. "What did you just say?" Vanessa looked around. For the first time all day, she didn't look confident. She looked scared. "You told me." She swallowed. "You told me Olivia knew." A wave of whispers spread through the guests. My heart started pounding. I looked at Ethan. She knew. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it, because there was no answer that could save him. Vanessa took a step forward. "I thought you had already told her." "Told me what?" I asked. She looked at me. "That you were ending the engagement." The room became completely silent. I felt like I couldn't breathe, not because I was surprised, but because hearing it from her made everything real. Ethan hadn't just cheated. He had created an entire fake reality, one where I was the only person who didn't know the truth. "Ethan." My voice was quiet. "How long?" He looked down. "Olivia." "How long?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Mia stood up from her seat. "You brought her here. You let your fiancé stand beside you while your affair partner watched." Ethan shook his head. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." I almost laughed. "Really? How was it supposed to happen?" No response. Because there was no version of this where he was the victim. His mother started crying. "I don't understand." She looked at Ethan. "When were you going to tell her?" He looked away. His father stood silently beside her, his expression filled with disappointment. The man who had spent months helping Ethan prepare for this wedding was now realizing his son had been preparing for something completely different. Vanessa looked at me. "I am sorry." Everyone looked at her. She continued, "I know you probably don't believe me." "No, I don't." She nodded. "I understand." Then she looked at Ethan. "But he lied to me too." Ethan immediately turned toward her. "Don't do this." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Don't do this. You told me you were leaving her. You told me the wedding was just an obligation. You told me after today we would finally be together." Her voice cracked. "And now I'm standing here looking like the other woman. Because that's exactly what I was." That sentence hit harder than anything else. Because for the first time, Vanessa wasn't acting like someone who had won. She was someone who realized she had been lied to too. Ethan had destroyed 2 relationships at once. "I looked at the man I thought I was going to marry. I spent 4 years loving you. I defended you. I trusted you. I planned my entire future around you." He whispered. "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "No. You are sorry because you got caught. That's different." He looked at me. "I did love you." I stared at him. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have planned a life with someone else while keeping me as a backup." The words hurt, but they were true. The officiant quietly approached. "Olivia, do you want to continue?" I looked around the room, at the flowers, the decorations, the guests, the person standing in front of me. Then I looked at my wedding ring, the symbol of a promise Ethan had already broken. I slowly removed it. I placed it in his hand. "No." A shocked silence filled the room. "I don't." For the first time that day, I felt free. Not happy, not healed, but free. I turned toward the guests. "I am sorry that today turned into this. I know everyone came here expecting a celebration, but I would rather end a wedding than begin a marriage built on a lie." Several people nodded. My mother walked toward me and hugged me. Mia followed. Then Noah. I wasn't alone anymore. As I walked away from the ceremony area, I heard Ethan calling my name. "Olivia, please." I stopped, but I didn't turn around, because for months, I had been waiting for him to choose me. Today, I finally chose myself. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong, because 2 days later, I received an email from the wedding venue. First, I thought it was about refunds, and said it contained a message that made me realize Ethan had been hiding one more secret. A secret even Vanessa didn't know. 2 days after the wedding disaster, I was sitting on my couch staring at the same wall for almost an hour. Not crying, not angry, just exhausted. There is a strange feeling that comes after a betrayal. The moment you discover the truth is painful, but the days afterward, those are when your mind starts replaying everything. Every conversation, every memory, every moment you ignored because you trusted someone. My phone buzzed. It was an email from the wedding venue. For a second my heart dropped. I thought maybe they were asking about payment. Maybe there was a cancellation issue. I opened it. The subject line read, "Important information regarding your wedding account." I took a deep breath and started reading. The venue manager explained that during their final review of the event, they noticed unusual changes made to the contract. Specifically, changes involving payments. I frowned. I was the one who paid the deposits. My parents helped. Everything was supposed to be transparent. Then I reached the last paragraph. We noticed that certain account details were changed 2 weeks before the wedding. Please contact us immediately. My stomach tightened. Changed by who? I called the venue. The manager answered quickly. "Olivia, I'm glad you called. What changes are you talking about?" She hesitated. "Your fiancé requested several modifications." "Ethan?" "Yes." "What kind of modifications?" She explained that Ethan had contacted them claiming there were family financial adjustments. He had changed the payment information connected to some remaining wedding expenses. My voice became quiet. "To what?" She paused. "An account under his name." I closed my eyes. "How much?" She gave me the number. Almost $18,000. I couldn't believe it. Not only had Ethan cheated, not only had he planned to leave me, he had also secretly moved wedding-related expenses into his own account. I immediately called Mia. When she arrived, I showed her the email. She read it carefully. Then she looked at me. "Olivia, did he do this before or after he started seeing Vanessa?" "I don't know." But suddenly, I remembered something. A conversation from months ago. Ethan had said, "We should keep finances simple before marriage." At the time I thought he meant planning responsibly. Now I realize he had been separating himself from the consequences. I contacted my lawyer. Yes, after everything I had hired one. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed protection. She reviewed the documents and gave me advice. "Olivia, don't contact Ethan directly about this yet." "Why?" "Because people who are caught often try to control the situation." She was right. Ethan had spent months controlling the story. He wasn't going to stop just because the truth came out. That evening, Ethan finally texted me. I had avoided every call, every message, but I opened this one. "Olivia, please talk to me." Then another. "I know I made mistakes." Then another. "You deserve answers." I stared at the screen. Mistakes. That word bothered me. A mistake is forgetting an appointment. A mistake is saying something wrong. A mistake is not months of lies. I didn't reply. A few minutes later, another message came. This time from Vanessa. I almost ignored it, but I opened it. "I know you hate me." I stared at the words. Then, "But I need to tell you something. Ethan wasn't planning to leave you after the wedding." My heart stopped. I read the sentence again. Then another message appeared. He was planning to keep both of us in his life. I felt sick. I called Vanessa. She answered immediately. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me." "No, I don't." She sighed. "I understand." "Then why are you calling?" "Because I found out something after the wedding." "What?" She was quiet. Then she said, "Ethan had been telling me different things too." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "He told me you were controlling. He told me you didn't understand him. He told me he was trapped." I closed my eyes. The same story, different audience. She continued. "But then I saw messages between him and another woman." I sat up. "Another woman?" "Yes." My voice became cold. Who? Vanessa whispered the name. A woman I knew. A woman who had been at our wedding. A woman who had hugged me and told me I deserved happiness. And suddenly, I realized Ethan's betrayal was bigger than I ever imagined. Because Vanessa wasn't the only secret he had been hiding. For a few seconds I couldn't speak. The name Vanessa had just given me kept repeating in my head. A woman who had stood beside me. A woman who had smiled at me. A woman who had told me how beautiful I looked on my wedding day. My stomach turned. Ethan was seeing her too? Vanessa's voice was quiet. I don't know everything. But I saw messages. Enough to know I wasn't the only one. I closed my eyes. For months I thought the betrayal was between 3 people. Me, Ethan, Vanessa. I was wrong. The next day I met with my lawyer. I brought every piece of evidence. The messages. The wedding contract changes. The screenshots. Everything. She looked through the documents carefully. Then she said something I never expected. Olivia, the most important thing is that you stop blaming yourself. I looked down. I ignored the signs. You trusted someone you loved. That's not the same thing. Her words stayed with me. Because for weeks I had been asking myself the wrong question. Why didn't I see it? Why did I believe him? But the better question was, why did he choose to lie? A few weeks later, I finally met Ethan face to face. Not at our house. Not somewhere private. At a quiet cafe. I wanted closure. Nothing more. He looked different. Not because he had changed. Because the confidence was gone. The man who once walked into every room like he owned it now looked like someone who had lost control of his own story. Olivia. I sat down. You wanted to talk. He nodded. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I stayed silent. I ruined everything. Yes. He looked surprised by my honesty. I really did love you. I looked at him. Then why? He looked down. I don't know. That answer hurt more than an excuse. Because after everything, he still couldn't explain why he made those choices. Finally, he said, I was scared. Of what? Of choosing. I stared at him. You didn't have trouble choosing. You chose to lie. He looked away. I continued. You wanted the comfort of me. The stability. The life we built. But you wanted excitement somewhere else. He didn't argue. Because it was true. Then he apologized. A real apology. Not one asking me to come back. Not one asking me to understand. Just an apology. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for embarrassing you. I'm sorry I made you question your own judgment. I listened. Then I said, I accept that you're sorry. His eyes lifted. But that doesn't mean I want you back. The silence between us was heavy, but peaceful. Because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for him to choose me. Months passed. The wedding date came and went. The venue eventually refunded what they could. The decorations were donated. The dress was packed away. Life slowly moved forward. I started therapy. I traveled. I spent more time with my family and friends. I remembered who I was before I became someone's future wife. And slowly, I became myself again. 1 year later, I received an invitation in the mail. Not a wedding invitation. A charity event invitation. The same type of event where Ethan and I had first met. I almost didn't go. But Mia convinced me. You can't let one person ruin every good memory. She was right. So I went. And for the first time in a long time, I had fun. I laughed. I talked to people. I didn't spend the entire night wondering where Ethan was or who he was texting. I was just Olivia. Near the end of the evening, I saw Ethan across the room. He saw me too. We both stopped. Then he smiled politely. I smiled back. And that was it. No anger. No pain. No desire to go back. Just 2 people who shared a chapter that had ended. A few months later, I moved into a new apartment. Place that was completely mine. No memories attached. No broken promises. No reminders of someone who couldn't appreciate what he had. One evening I sat by the window watching the city lights. I thought about the wedding day. The day I thought my life was falling apart. But now I understood something. That wasn't the day I lost my future. That was the day I saved it. Because a marriage built on lies would have cost me years. Walking away cost me one painful day. And I would choose that again. Every time. People often think the worst thing that can happen is losing the person they love. But sometimes, the greatest gift is discovering the truth before you lose yourself. I didn't get the wedding I planned. I didn't get the marriage I imagined. But I got something better. A life where I never had to wonder if I was someone's first choice. 'Cause now, I choose myself.